Hey everyone, welcome back to your practice. So glad that you're here and you have this time for yourself today. So today's flow I'm calling the Goldilocks Flow because it's not too hard, not too easy. This is inspired by one of my friends. But it will move the bigger joints of the body, put some attention into containing through the center and finding some length through the spine, and just enough, that just right space if you're feeling either fatigued or you want to save energy for something else. So you might want a couple blocks for this practice. Sometimes it's nice to have those underneath your hands in lunges or in your twisted lunges. And let's start in a seat. I'm actually going to start kneeling. So I'm going to take one of those blocks underneath my hips and have my feet out to the side. You could also be cross-legged for this. And then I'll invite you to take your hands somewhere on your body. If that's not working right now, you can have them on your lap or you can freeform move your arms. And you might want to close your eyes here and come into the rhythm of your breath. If there's a breath that you use for your practice to tether your mind to, you can drop into that. Perhaps there's a little sound to the breath. And then there's an invitation to start our practice today with bringing someone, or could be a thing, it could be a non-human being, it could be a land connection that supports you. So this isn't an effort to feel less alone if you identify with that, or feel more supported. And perhaps that person or that non-human being or that land, that place, perhaps that's been an integral part of your healing journey. And by bringing that up, see what that does to your whole felt sense. And then if you like, you can open your eyes and let's come into a side bend. So you can circle your arms up. Big exhale, toss yourself over to the right. Get into the left side ribs, opposite of me. Inhale into the center, arms up. Exhale over to the left, big side bend. Inhale into the center, arms up. Let's twist to the right. So left hand comes on top of the right knee perhaps, or right hand comes behind you. You might look behind you. Inhale brings you up to center. Feel free to look up and then twist to the left. Right hand comes across, left hand behind. Maybe look behind you. Inhale into the center. And if you like, make sound as you bring your hands down to your chest. Big inhale. Let your hands come to the floor. Come onto all fours. You can take your blocks out in front of you on either side of the mat. Start to shift forwards and back. Next inhale, let your right leg come up and back behind you. See if you can contain a little from the front of the abdomen. Also contain from the back body. Reach that leg out. And then as you exhale, bring your right knee in towards your right armpit and take your right foot to the outside of your right hand. You might need to grab it and move it forwards. We're coming into a twist here. So you might want to come up onto a block or fall into your left hand. Take your right hand on your right knee, maybe all the way up to the ceiling. You can look up and rotate as much as you like here, even letting your right arm hang back behind you. You can even let your left ear hang towards your left shoulder and notice how that feels in the right side of your neck. And if your hips are moving way to the right, how would it feel to center them? Move them a little to the left. Find another breath here. And then exhale, take your right hand down to the floor and kick your right leg out to the side. So the whole sole of the foot comes onto the floor. And you can tuck your back left toes under and start to shift forwards and back. Maybe for some you come onto your forearms for this. And you can walk that right leg as far out as you like. Perhaps you're containing the front of the abdomen a little if you tend to overarch your lower back, checking in. And then option here to come back up onto your hands, lift your right arm up, and then exhale, thread it under your left armpit. You could pause there as far as you'd like to go, or maybe bend your left elbow and take your right temple to the floor. Allow your hips to shift a little, let your right pelvis downslope. You might even tighten your right kneecap and get a sense of lifting your right inner thigh up. And then as you're ready, your right arm comes up. You can reach it right up into the air, into that big twist. And then we'll start to take that right leg back in line with the left knee, like a warrior two back leg. And you can untuck your left toes here and see how it would feel to balance yourself up, right arm up, in a side plank variation. You might lift your right leg and float it. And you might even pulse your right heel up and down a little. You can even take your right foot down to the floor and see if you can lift your left knee and maybe kick it out towards straight in front of you. And then take your time to come back onto all fours. Let the inhale arch your spine, squeezing your shoulder blades together if you like. And let the exhale round your spine, spreading your shoulder blades on your back. And then when you inhale, let your left leg come back and out from the all fours position, contained from the front of the abdomen and the back body. Take a breath there and then exhale, bend the knee into the armpit, take it to the outside of the left hand. And we're coming into a twist. So you could come up onto a block or climb onto your knee or reach your left arm up, pushing your arms apart from each other. Let your left arm hang back as much as you like. And if your right shoulder is popping forwards, how would it feel to pull it back into the joint? Maybe even letting your head hang. If your hips are going way left, how would it feel to shift them to the right? One more breath there. You can even let your jaw hang open and then let your left arm come to the floor and kick your left leg out to the side. And it's up to you how far out you take that leg. You could slide it out a lot. You could pull it in, tucking the back toes, shifting forwards and back. Maybe you explore tightening the left kneecap, lifting the left inner thigh, containing the front of the abdomen. This could even feel like a warm up through the wrists if you take your arm bones beyond that 90 degree with your hand, pressing into the knuckles. And then option here is to let your left arm come up back into that beautiful twist and then thread it under your right armpit a little. Pause there. Or you could take your right hand a little out to the side, bend the elbow and let your temple come to the ground. Let your pelvis slant. If your hips are shifting right, you might move them a little left and see what that does to the back body. And you could energize your left leg. As you're ready, you can come on back up into that beautiful twist of yours, and then let your left hand come down to the floor and start to shift your left foot into that warrior two position. You can untuck your right toes and plant your toenails on the ground there. And how would it feel to come up into a side plank variation? Some options here for you. You could hover that back leg, containing the front, back, and sides of the body a little, but keeping the breath nice and circular around your lower ribs. You could even test your balance and let your head hang. You could pulse that back leg. That might allow you to feel some strength in your left outer hip. Could press away with your bottom arm. For some, you could place the back foot down. See if you can lift the right knee up, maybe kick it forwards for a breath. And then let's come out of that, back onto all fours. Inhale, arch your spine. Exhale, round your spine. Come to neutral, tuck your toes. Come back into a downward facing dog. Pedal out through your feet. Let's inhale the right leg up. You can bend the knee and open the hip if you like. See what it feels like to keep your belly button facing to the floor and keep that long line of energy right through to your tailbone, and then move your hip into external rotation without shifting the pelvis too much. And then exhale that right leg through. Come up onto your fingertips, set your back foot up so you can come all the way up into your high lunge. Back heel elevated. Take a breath in here. Take a breath out. You might even look up if that suits you. And then we're gonna twist. Take your left arm forwards. Start to twist from your pelvis. The left hip might come a little forwards, the right arm back. Reach out through your hands, and then we're gonna land in a twisted lunge. So the left hand can come down either on a block if you like, or fall into your hand on the ground and reach your right arm up. And notice the difference here. You could check in if your back left glute is working or your hamstring. If your hips are shifting right, you might shift them left. Breath in and out there. You can let your right arm reach back behind you, even let your left ear hang by your left shoulder. One more breath there. And then let your right hand come down. And if you're on a block, fall into your left hand and see if you can turn onto the outer left edge of your foot. And maybe that means you take your right foot halfway back the mat. And press into it and lift your hips into a side plank variation. A couple of variations here. You could stack one foot in front of the other. You could stack one foot on top of the other. If your back hip tends to hang back, how would it feel to stack it a little more on top of your bottom hip? Maybe lift your hips a little higher. You could let your head hang and freeform through your arm. You could even take your top right leg into a tree. Maybe catch the knee with your hand or your big toe into Vashisthasana. And then let's take our right foot back into a lunge. So that might mean your right hand comes to the ground. It might mean you bring it forwards without doing that. Let your back knee come down on the top of the foot and start to shift forwards and back into a low lunge. Back hips over the back knee. Now you're welcome to keep going with this movement. You could have blocks underneath your hands. And you could also shift back with your right toes up and start to move your rib cage side to side. You could get interested in doing this without moving your hips side to side, kind of wagging your tail. So how would it feel to sort of look over your right shoulder, scrunch one side body and then the other, look over your left shoulder, and then start to bring the hips into it. So then let your hips move, and that might make your right foot kick out to the side, and then in, internal and external rotation of the thigh. Nice movement for the fascia here. You might stay with this for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And if you like, shift your hips to the left, shift both hands over onto the outside edge of your right foot. And you might keep walking, keep turning, maybe until the outer right edge of the foot comes closer to the floor. Some of you might even take your left outer elbow, hug it to the outer right knee, and shift forwards and get a little lift off, maybe into a side crow or a Kaundinyasana variation. And wherever you are, let's shift forwards into a low lunge, forwards and back a couple of times, and then let's stay forwards here. And you can climb up on your right knee. Maybe you circle your arms up. You might even press into the toenails of your back foot and lift up a little higher. Shooting arrow through your back leg. Exhale your way into downward facing dog. Whole thing on the other side. Pedal it out. Connect to your breath. Feel support of the earth, support of your personal reaches, your personal support system. Left leg up into the air. You can bend the knee and open the hip and see if you can turn your belly button back down to the floor. Reach long through your lower back, but roll that hip open. Take your time to bring that through for your lunge. So come up onto your fingertips, walk your back foot back, prepare to come up. You can circle your arms up here. High lunge, back heel elevated. Maybe look up. Then we're gonna start to twist. Right arm forwards, left arm back. It's like peeling open. Like stretching apart through the hands. And then you can fall into your twisted lunge. So you might find the block or your hand on the ground. Push down through your bottom arm. Check your back right glute is working. How's your hip positioning? Maybe they can come a little to the right. You're finding out what works for you. Maybe your neck is just wanting to hang, almost like you're offended by something on the ceiling. Take a breath there. If your right shoulder's popping forward, sometimes it gets a little lazy. Can you pull it back? Let your left arm hang back as much as you want. If you've been on a block, invitation is to fall into your right hand, turn onto the outer right foot, find your side plank variation. So the foot might come halfway, it might stack in front. That's a nice variation to keep your left hip forwards. Maybe they stack on top. Left hip might come forwards a bit. You could see if you can find a tree or catch a knee or catch a toe. And then we're gonna take that left leg back into the lunge. So it's up to you. You might take your hand down, you might float that forwards. Frame your front foot, let your back knee come down, top of the foot, and shift forwards and back. Going at your own pace with your own breath there. Sometimes there's this creep of a grip happening in the body. If you can locate that, it's possible to let a little unnecessary tension go. Some tension is a great thing. So you don't need to let it all go. And then you might shift back, keep your hips steady, either stay there or start to look over your right shoulder, peek over your left shoulder, scrunching one side waist and then the other. And if you have long arms like me, you might notice that you come into a bit of a back bend to do this. See if you can keep that straight lateral movement instead of curling or back bending, straight side to side. And then you can bring your hips into it. So your hips might wag side to side a little. And that might make your leg move internal, inner foot to the floor, external, outer foot to the floor. And you might stay in stillness or hang in that for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you like, walk your hands all the way over to the outside of your left foot. Maybe the left outer edge comes down. You keep spinning as much as you like. You could pull that left ankle in a little bit. Hook your right elbow to the outside of the knee. Might fall into your hands and tuck your back toe and pull your back foot in. And you might find a little arm balance, shifting your upper body in towards a chaturanga, maybe a side crow or a Kaundanyasana. And then forwards, back into that low lunge shape, and backwards and forwards. A couple more times until you're ready to shift your hips forwards, and you could stay there, climb up. You're coming a little higher. I like to think about stretching the back body apart, moving the pelvis and head back. And you might take the arms up and you might shoot through your back toenails and lift your back knee for a breath in and out, circling down there. Hands find the floor, tuck the back toes and shift back into downward facing dog. Pedal out. Another nice one here is to take your feet together and start to bend your knees, swiveling your toes and your knees to the right and then to the left. And you might feel that similar kind of fascia, connective tissue stretch, or slide and glide rather, through the back of the body. You could even tap one hip to the floor and then the other. And then as you're ready, come on back through to a seat. So you can choose a seat that works for you. Perhaps it's a cross-legged position. This time, perhaps it's sitting on a block. Let's come into our side bends, arms up. Toss it to the right. Inhale, arms up. Maybe look up, toss it left. Arms up, twisting right. Arms up, twisting left. Arms up. If you like, let your hands fall through to the center and you could make some sound. And you could rest in Shavasana here, or you might be ready to continue on with your day. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. May you have peace.